Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, what would happen if your mobile phone killed you?
We are tonight's entertainment.
I would rather watch Beautician and the Beast.
People don't forget.
Made for Movies. This is the Made for Movies podcast. We are back in the house. I'm so ready for this episode, man. Been waiting a long time for this one. We have our official review of The Suicide Squad, not to be confused with the 2016 film Suicide Squad. Of course, all they did was add "the" to the title. That is not confusing at all to anyone, I'm sure. So that's going to be our main event for today. A couple other things lined up for you. We're going to do a Jungle Cruise review. It'll be short and sweet, I promise. And then we're going to get to some trailers. So with the trailers, the way we've been doing it is we'll let you know if you should be seeing it, streaming it, or skipping it. And we are going to start with a brand new Clint Eastwood film, Cry Macho. Not to be confused with Ralph Macchio. Cry Macho looks to tell the story of a one-time rodeo star and washed-up horse breeder who takes a job to bring a man's young son home and away from his alcoholic mom. On their journey, the horseman finds redemption through teaching the boy what it means to be a good man. Okay, a lot to unpack with this trailer. It's been a while since I've seen a really good Clint Eastwood movie. Trying to remember the last one I really liked. I want to say Gran Torino in like 2007, 2008. Maybe there was a couple other decent ones along the way, but this guy is 91 years old, one of the all-time greats. He can do whatever the hell he wants at this point, and who am I, or who is anyone, to tell him otherwise? Four-time Oscar winner. Like, come on. I have to say, from all these trailers, I'll actually watch this movie. I missed the one that came out last year called The Mule. It looked pretty decent, so if anyone has seen that, let me know if it is worth my time, because I would love to do a little Clint Eastwood marathon before jumping into this one. And this one does seem to look very similar to Gran Torino in the sense that he looks like he's playing just a total asshole. Also seems to involve some minorities, which we've seen him interact with in the past, which is always quite interesting, but nonetheless, 91 years old, starring in a movie, directing the movie, producing the movie. I don't know how many more he's got left in the tank, but God bless this guy. He looks fantastic in it. Looks to be doing some action scenes of some kind, and just a legend overall. So, yeah, I think I will be seeing this. It will be available on HBO Max for streaming. This movie comes out on... September 17th, 2021. So coming up pretty soon here. Our second trailer of the day is one that I'm a little more excited about. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. This movie comes out September 24th, so another September release. This one will have Tom Hardy returning to the role that he played a couple years ago. Michelle Williams is back. Woody Harrelson steps into the role of Carnage. What is unique about this one is Andy Serkis is actually directing it from a story by Tom Hardy, written by Kelly Marcel. So, interesting. The trailer looks to be capturing the weirdness of the first movie, which I know I really don't like the first Venom, but I like Tom Hardy as Venom, and I think the weird buddy cop scenes are the best scenes in the movie. And I think it was very smart, considering how much money this movie made, to really lean into that and to not make this the Dark Knight sequel that's super dark, super serious. I just don't think these movies are meant to be like that. I would like to see it be R-rated, but at the end of the day, Venom made almost $1 billion, and we just watched Suicide Squad open with an R rating and bomb. So clearly they know what they're doing. Also, with CG characters, I feel like you can get away with a lot more violence in general. So I'm hopeful that we get to see a Carnage that is kind of similar to the comics. I do like the look. In CG, it's hard to make the difference between the red and the black, at least for my eyes. I may be colorblind. I don't know. But I will say it's pretty accurate. I love Woody Harrelson. I imagine that Andy Serkis is a step up in directing from the first director, who I couldn't even tell you who did it. I'm sorry. But definitely looking forward to this. I don't think this movie has a very high ceiling. I'm going to say it's going to end up like a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. It would be a perfect world, but it won't be any worse than a 6 for sure. And I am going to be seeing it in theaters, so you should too. We will move into the last trailer. So this one is pretty funny. This is a movie called Kate. And Kate, I believe, is coming to Netflix, I want to say. But don't hold me on that. I'm not seeing it pop up on the IMDb page. But it stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead in basically a John Wick movie. There's really I don't even see a plot on the IMDb, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it's a revenge movie. Woody Harrelson's also in this one too. I have to say, does every single revenge movie now have to be John Wick? I don't think so. I don't want that. I don't think anybody does. I'm looking forward to the Jane Wick remake of John Wick in 15 years. I'm sure that will be just delightful. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to this. I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She is great in a lot of things, but if this movie is Netflix, which I'm pretty sure, yes, it is Netflix. It's coming September 10th. Yeah, there's no chance that this movie will be good, unfortunately, but I might watch it. I don't know. I'm going to skip it. Let's say skip it for now. You guys can let me know how it is, and I'll take your word for it. That will wrap up the trailers for today. Whew, that was quite intense for me. I don't know if I can continue. But the show must go on, and Jungle Cruise is going to be our first review of the day. So I'm a little late to the party with this. I needed time to let this one marinate for me. So I did see this, I think, opening day. I watched it on Disney+. I did not go to the theater. I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more in the theater, but I'm also glad I didn't go. But nonetheless, Jungle Cruise is basically based on the Disneyland theme park ride of the same name, where a small riverboat takes a group of travelers to a jungle filled with dangerous animals and reptiles, but with a supernatural element as well. It stars none other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Emily Blunt, and one of my favorites, Jesse Plemons. The director is, I'm going to butcher his name, man. I'll just say his last name, Colette Serra. I know he did The Shallows, which is one of my favorite shark movies. He also did Unknown and Orphan and House of Wax. So he has a ton of thriller genres. Ton of movies he's done in the thriller genre as well. And yeah, I'm actually a really big fan of his, and I believe he's directing Black Adam, which is freaking awesome. But at the end of the day, as far as Jungle Cruise goes, so just expectations going in, big fan of The Rock. He's been struggling for me a little bit lately, but he's really good at what he does at the end of the day, and a lot of the stuff he does isn't really for me anymore, which is totally fine. As far as Emily Blunt goes, huge fan. Have to say, I was talking to someone the other day about this, and I couldn't think of that many movies with her, but I always like her in movies. And I just watched for the first time Sicario. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. The one from Dennis Villanueva. Loved it. Thought she was just terrific in it, and I felt like an idiot for making that comment about her, because she is outstanding. And I really look forward to hopefully seeing her in more roles. Of course, she was just in A Quiet Place Part 2. Phenomenal in that. Yeah, so definitely she's one to watch moving forward for sure, especially that she is married to John Krasinski. And I just could see them teaming up for another project if it's not A Quiet Place. How about let's get them as the Fantastic Four duo? I think that would be really, really cool. Probably the 1 millionth person to suggest this, so not coming up with these ideas, I promise. I've seen this online. So we will see about that. But as far as this movie goes, it was okay. So this movie's not made for me. I'm very aware of that. This is a kid's movie through and through. And if I was 10, 11 years old, I'm sure I would have liked it a lot more. For me, a couple things. Okay, so what did I like about the movie? Let's be positive. All right. So Jesse Plemons playing basically a Nazi in this movie. Very funny, very good. He just brings it in every single role I see him in. And yeah, I am a big fan. Really looking forward to whatever he does in the future. And he doesn't have much to work with in this movie as far as dialogue, but he's really fun to watch, I have to say, and he definitely is the best part of this movie. Emily Blunt, really good in this movie as well. The Rock, he's The Rock, so you know what you're getting with him at this point. Certainly not bad by any means, and he does have a couple funny one-liners. One thing I liked, so I did a little research about this. I have never been on the Jungle Cruise ride, but I hear that the opening of the movie with Rock taking the people down the river is very accurate as far as the jokes that he's telling. So I thought that was really funny that they did that, especially the jokes were terrible. So props to them for making the opening as similar to the actual ride as possible, which apparently is just a terrible freaking ride. But yeah, that's pretty much all the good things I liked. I struggled with this a little bit as far as the CGI. I can't believe, this movie cost $200 to make. I get that. It's called Jungle Cruise, and there's not one real animal in this movie. So strange decision. I really thought that there would be opportunities to have real animals, somewhere present in the jungle versus very fake-looking CGI animals. But it was fine. There's some, interesting storyline elements that borrow heavily from Pirates of the Caribbean, amongst many other things. And they very much wanted this to be their new Pirates of the Caribbean, which who can blame them? That's $1 billion franchise. The Rock's even said he wanted to make his own Pirates of the Caribbean. So it's not that. It's not nearly as good as that. It may be as good as like Pirates of the Caribbean 5, and somewhere in that range. For me, it's like if I had to rate it, I don't really want to because, again, it's a kid's movie. It's not for me. I would give it like a 4 or a 5 out of 10, and I would say that if you have kids, it's probably they would really enjoy this movie. As an adult, it is what it is. I'm not going to get too mad at a movie for being made for children. It does suck when you have people in the movie and you want to like it a little more. It was never going to be as good as Pirates of the Caribbean. So definitely worth seeing. I wouldn't, pay it. This movie's going to be free on Disney Plus sooner than later. I would say wait. It's definitely not worth the $30 that they're charging, and it's not worth going to the movies for. But other than that, that's all I have to say. Let's move on to our main event of the day, Suicide Squad. I did it again. Damn it. Sorry, The Suicide Squad. I don't want anyone to be confused out there about which movie I'm about to review. This is the one with Jared Leto, I think. No, that's not right. All right, so I'm just kidding. Anyway, The Suicide Squad, directed by none other than James Gunn. Are we living in a Twilight Zone? What is going on? James Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy coming over to DC to have some fun. Of course, this movie stars none other than Margot Robbie, Idris Elba, John Cena, Joe Kinnaman, Michael Rooker, among many, many others. You guys can look them up if you want all the names. And, of course, King Shark, voiced by Sylvester Stallone. So, as far as this movie goes, the plot basically is just a bunch of supervillains teaming up to do some shit. That's more or less it. So, not going to get too much into the specifics of the plot quite yet as far as my expectations going into this movie. Well, let's just start with the Suicide Squad from 2016 of the same exact name, minus the. I saw that movie with Wolf. I was pretty intoxicated for it, I have to admit, and I kind of enjoyed myself. I think I was just confused because of all the songs that they were playing that I just liked to listen to. I didn't really remember much, and then I went to watch it again when it came out on streaming, and I was very confused as to what movie I thought I saw in theaters because it is one of the worst comic book movies ever made. It definitely is basically a 2-hour music video, and although there are some moments I like, a couple scenes, I like Will Smith. Margot Robbie's obviously not bad. I actually don't mind Jared Leto, other than that he's in it for 38 seconds. But yeah, it's really bad. I would never think that this movie would get a sequel. Of course, the fallout from James Gunn being fired off of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 really just has changed everything. One, Guardians was supposed to lead off Phase 4, and clearly the firing, they fired him based off tweets he made like 20 years ago. Delayed all that. He signs with the other team. He goes over to DC. This, to me, was just insane when it happened, and I kind of feel the fact that he went back, he's now, again, James Gunn's going to be directing Part 3 of Guardians. I feel like it took away a little of this movie, because the whole thing was, wow, we're not going to be able to see James Gunn do superhero movies anymore. Then we got him to do Suicide Squad, but then he re-signed anyway for Disney. So I think it took the excitement down just a notch for a lot of people going into this film. Didn't affect me too much. I thought that the trailers looked great. As far as James Gunn goes, I think he's a genius. Guardians Part 1 and 2 are two of my all-time favorite movies just in general. And I think that he has a couple issues with some of his movies, but overall, I think he's a fantastic director, and I expected this to be great. And just moving into my general thoughts, I love this movie. I thought it was a very entertaining time at the theater. And if I had made a checklist before I saw this film on the things I wanted to get out of it, I certainly think that he checked all those boxes. Is it a perfect movie? No. There's some issues with it for sure that we'll definitely get into. But it's just such a fun movie, and it's, as advertised, The Suicide Squad. R-rated, super gory. This movie is definitely not for everyone. If you do not like gore, if you do not like ultra violence, I would say that this one's not going to be for you, because they literally do not hold back on anything. Language, very, very vulgar movie as well. I would say the humor is... This movie is very funny for me. I laughed a lot. There is a lot of visual humor that I enjoyed. The dialogue specifically is probably where I would say it was the weakest. By no means do I think that it was poorly written. What I mean is a lot of the jokes just didn't land for me like I wanted them to. Some are good, but for the most part, specifically Harley Quinn's, just didn't quite stick the landing. Didn't hurt the movie by any means, but overall, this movie's strength is definitely in how absurd it is. It builds up tremendously throughout the movie to a fantastic final 45-minute climax that is straight out of a comic book. I know this is a comic book movie, but I think somewhere along the line that gets lost a lot when we watch these comic book movies is that they just forget to be fun and be what they are supposed to be, which is, based off the actual comic books, and they're sometimes just too damn serious. So I really appreciate this movie just embracing the silliness, the weirdness, the absurdity of it all, especially with some of the specific characters that we'll get into in a second. And I really like that this is an independent story, which is another thing comic books are known for, right? Like, not everything has to connect or set up the next thing, which for me, so to go back to Guardians 2 I think is just such a damn good movie, and I think some people don't like it because it doesn't really connect to the MCU that much as far as the stakes. But that's what I love about it. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon that you can just watch, and there's nothing you have to worry about. You don't have to watch 48 movies to know what's going on, and I really did appreciate that. I thought the pacing in this movie was relatively well done from beginning to end. We'll get into specifics here in a second, but just to focus and highlight some of the actors, because we've clearly mentioned James Gunn did a great job. But man, this movie's nothing without the cast, and it is so hard to pinpoint who is the standout in the cast, because one, whoever casted this movie, bravo. I don't know if it was James Gunn or someone else, but just an amazing job all around, especially when you consider having to overcome the 2016 Suicide Squad. And what I mean by that is, as far as, do you completely recast everyone, or not even recast, but just have new characters? Or do you bring everyone back and just do a direct sequel? So they had a really tough call to make. And what they decided to do was bring back a few characters and then, just have all new characters. So the ones returning, we have Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. We have Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag. And we have, I forget that guy's name, as Captain Boomerang returning. And, of course, Viola Davis returning as Waller as well. All right, so I had to cheat. It was Jay Courtney was the guy's name that played Captain Boomerang. So we get those people returning. Of course, everyone that came back did a decent job. They were my least favorite parts of the movie. I actually kind of wish they completely scrapped everybody. Of course, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn does have a couple of the standouts. Rick Flag is good in the movie. But I just think that connective tissue it didn't hurt the quality of the movie. I don't really even know how to say it, but it just hurt the marketing of the movie, I would say, because they couldn't market it as a sequel. They didn't want to market it as a reboot, so it was kind of in limbo as to what exactly this thing was. And I think it would have been much easier if it was just an entire new cast of characters. So we do not have Will Smith returning for this. He was in talks to return, but he had to film something else. I don't know what the heck he's doing as far as career choices, but this was a mistake. I would have loved for him to return, but instead we get Idris Elba in his place. So there were rumors that Idris Elba was actually going to be taking over the role of Deadshot, which thank God they did not recast. But instead, he plays an entirely new character who is pretty much the exact same background and character as Deadshot. So he plays Bloodsport. Both have their daughters, both kind of fighting for similar things, both just very similar fighting styles in general. But I have to say, I really did enjoy Idris Elba in this. It was great to see him get to star in a big budget blockbuster that isn't terrible. I feel like he has had some bad luck over the years with specific movies that I was just excited to see him star in, and they did not work out. Dark Tower specifically sticks out the most to me. And at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know if Idris Elba is like a movie star that can sell tickets. Clearly, the Suicide Squad bombed, but he definitely is an added value movie star for sure. Like, he's always great. Even in bad movies, he brings it. He's got great charisma, and looking forward to see what else he does after this. John Cena was good in this. I'm surprised we didn't get more of him, considering the Peacemaker TV series is coming out. I thought they gave us just the perfect amount of John Cena, and I always think he's better in a supporting role. Curious to see if he's able to deliver on the TV show as the leading character every episode. But at the end of the day, the guy is talented, and looking forward to that as well. Moving down the list, I know I talked a little bit about Margot. I thought her storyline in this was the weakest, as far as they have a little bit of a subplot that we'll get into in spoilers here in just a minute. She's great in it, especially as far as just her mannerisms. She has the character down. She could play this character in her sleep. Again, I thought the weakest part of hers was just her storyline and some of the dialogue, which is not the actress's fault. Like, she's fantastic, and again, much better than the stuff she was dealing with in the previous Suicide Squad. But still, I thought that there was a 15 to 20 minute section in this movie that really kept it from being just almost a perfect movie. So we'll get into what part that was here. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up the cast. I'm trying to think if I missed anyone. Oh, of course, Sylvester Stallone as King Shark was fantastic. Doesn't really come through that it's Sylvester Stallone, but yeah, he's great. I love the character. I was looking forward to that probably the most in the movie, and I could have used a little bit more. I was surprised based off the trailers that there was not going to be more of it, but overall, no complaints at all with him. And then the last person I do want to talk about, I'm just getting ahead of myself, man. There's so many people in this damn movie. As far as Polka Dot Man, played by David Dastmalchian. Man, what a great character actor. I love him, and he's great in The Dark Knight in his little mini role. Also fantastic in Prisoners. He's in a ton of stuff and always good. To me, he's probably the highlight of the entire film. Some of the best laughs in this movie are with his character, and just in general, amazing. From there, Daniela Melchior. Again, I am just the worst with names. I'm so sorry if you're listening, but plays Ratcatcher 2. I thought she was incredible. Not so funny, but just a really great performance. Had a lot of emotional weight behind it. Of course, it was helped out by who played Ratcatcher 1. I'll leave that for the spoilers. I don't know if that was meant to be known going in, but I consider it a spoiler. I didn't know it, and I thought not knowing it really helped. So that's really where we're at. Final thoughts on this before we get into spoilers. Again, if you are a DC fan, comic fan, James Gunn fan, this movie is going to make you so happy. You will smile watching every second of it. Very fun 2 hours at the movies. Great time. Definitely go see it. Go see it in theaters or stream it on HBO Max. If you don't like violence, if R-rated stuff is not for you and you prefer your Marvel stuff, I would say this is probably skippable for you because it might give you a little bit of a headache and make you nauseous with some of the gore because there is a plenty. I will save my rating until the end of the movie, but if you have not seen Suicide Squad, please go away now. We are going to deep dive this thing a little bit, talk about specific scenes and characters and who lives and who dies. All right, it's time. Let's talk about it. So, if you are a listener of this podcast, you will remember back in April, I only had one thing I wanted in this movie. So, I actually pulled the tape of the recording of me and Wolf talking about this, and I will just play it for you guys. Here is the one thing I wanted. We have Michael Rooker back from Guardians here too.
Nice.
As long as Pete Davidson dies and has less than 5 minutes of screen time, I will 100% be giving this movie a 10 out of 10. That's all.
Okay. I mean that's enough for me as well.
Yeah. So that's all I wanted, and let's start at the beginning of this movie. So this movie opens very, very similar to the 2016 Suicide Squad, almost intentionally similar as far as we get the gist of Amanda Waller taking people, letting them know they're part of this Task Force X, and if they want to get out of prison, they have to do everything that she says. Michael Rooker is playing the role here of catching everyone up to speed on how this thing works. It's definitely led to believe that he is one of the leaders of this team and someone that we will be following possibly a little bit more in this movie. Of course, this is just a red herring. So, this first team, very interesting. We have Weasel. We have TDK. Who else do we got on this thing? Blackguard, played by none other than Pete Davidson. Javelin. Javelin's another classic DC character as well. But as you can see, these are the D-listers, and it's very obvious to us all that these people aren't going to be in the movie very long. So I saw this movie twice. I saw it in theaters, and then I watched it on HBO Max. So the first time I saw it, this kind of bothered me the way they did the opening. So we'll get into the specifics here. But as far as they had, obviously, the opening team beach scene, then everyone dies, that we'll get into. But then we see that there's a Team 2, and then it goes back 3 days, and we get the introductions to who Team 2 is, and then we're back to the island. I did not think this worked in the theater the first time. I thought it was it just took away from the shock value of everyone dying. But watching it the second time, I don't think there was meant to be shock value. I think it was meant to be super, super obvious that this team was going to be destroyed. I didn't even realize that this happens before the opening credits. So there is no opening credits in the movie until Team 1 gets completely wiped out. But back to my one request. That is, I wanted Pete Davidson to die, and I wanted him to die with less than 5 minutes of screen time. Well, if you have seen the movie, you should know that I was the most happy person you have ever seen. I went to see this movie with a few people, and when it happened, they all like looked at me as if I had just won a gold medal or an award, and I like had to stand up and accept my award. Everyone was clapping, high-fiving each other. It was just pure joy, and it just really gave me hope for times moving forward. And I really hope to achieve this amount of joy at some point in the future. But thank you so much to James Gunn for killing Pete Davidson. Just wow. Yeah, I know I said I'd give the movie a 10 out of 10 for that. I will not be doing that, but I have to say, I guess that makes me a liar. But nonetheless, wow, just a magical movie moment. Of course, the biggest shock in the opening scene, I would say, is Captain Boomerang dying. Of course, he was in the previous movie. Dies a horrific death, but the highlight, even though the Pete Davidson death was a highlight, the actual filming highlight, of course, was TDK, the detachable kid, when his arms come off. Wow, that is just one of my favorite moments in movie history. Just perfectly executed, super dramatic with the way it was shot. And in general, this movie is shot very seriously. Reminded me a lot of Tropic Thunder in the sense, just a lot of things actually reminded me of that movie. And I love that movie. I think the tone works perfectly. Opening, fantastic. Like I said, pretty much everyone dies except for Harley and Joel Kinnaman. Rick Flag, excuse me, not the actor's name. But yeah, so from there, we jump back in time and we get the intros for Idris Elba, John Cena, King Shark, pretty Ratcatcher too. So we get the main team that we're going to be following through this movie. Again, didn't love it the first time, but it does work for me on the second going. And yeah, so as far as like pivotal scenes in this movie, like if you guys are listening at this point, you've seen it. I don't want to recap every single joke and every single scene. I will highlight a couple things that really stood out to me and really work. So from here, the next pivotal scene is going to be when Amanda Waller forces them to go rescue Rick Flag. He has been captured, and we get the dick measuring contest between John Cena and Idris Elba. Thought this was one of the better comedy bits in the movie. The payoff is really where it just lands so perfectly when we find out that they are actually killing the resistance and they were killing good people. Just perfectly executed. Everyone around, as far as the acting goes, just sells this moment. It should be a very sad thing, but it's just flawless. One of the best bits in the entire movie for sure. Then we get the only part of the movie that I did not like on the first viewing or the second viewing. It's about a 20-minute section where we get this Margot Robbie subplot as far as her potentially getting married to one of the villains in the movie. This just goes on a little bit too long for me. I actually saw an interview with James Gunn where he specifically talks about this, and apparently this was 15 minutes longer before, and in his original cut. And please, you people out there, please do not make us have to watch the Gunn cut of this movie. This movie is fine the way it is. It does not need to be longer. But yeah, he said he cut this down by about 15 to 20 minutes because he felt that it was messing with the pacing of the movie. I personally feel that they could have summed up this 15-minute section with Harley in a minute or two. It really, nothing happens that's substantial with the plot. All it does is set up her, eventual escape of the movie. So it's clearly needed to show how she gets captured. But that's really all you needed. You didn't need this whole subplot with the love angle. Maybe there's people that really like this. If you did, let me know. Maybe I'm crazy. I just thought that it really took away from the pacing as far as getting away from the action. Not that I need 2 hours of action the entire time. I just felt that if you were going to do a 10 or 15 minute detour, have it be something that's a little more substantial, like the bar scene that comes up in a little bit. I thought that was a nice 10 or 15 minute detour that really lets a lot of the characters shine through, and I just felt that we've seen this Harley Quinn character do very similar things. It just doesn't interest me personally, but at the end of the day, it's not like it was the worst thing I ever watched. I just felt that in a 2 hour and 15-minute movie, they could have cut this part out, and it would have been better for it as far as the overall pacing. But let's move into the prison break scene. That's the next pivotal scene. So Margot obviously is captured. This, to me, it's so funny. So I'm watching this movie, and I was not enjoying her performance in it. Not the actress, just the representation of the character and the dialogue. It just was making me cringe a lot. And then we get this prison scene, and it completely turns her performance in the movie on its head, as well as the movie. From this point out, this takes place about halfway through the movie, and I thought the second half of this movie is perfect. It really is, and this scene in specific is one of the best scenes I've seen in a James Gunn movie yet. It really reminded me of the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where we have Yondu and music is playing the entire time, and he's killing everyone with his arrow. Very, very artistic, and this was very similar in that. The cinematography is top-notch throughout this entire thing. Not a lot of quick cuts, as you know I like, but just perfectly done. It looks like Margot does all her own stunts in this scene, which really, really help as far as the wide shots go. And the camera kind of follows her as she goes on her escape. And it's nonstop. It's rapid. It goes for about 5 minutes. Really love the touch of when she starts shooting people. The flowers start flying everywhere, and there's like cartoon birds. I think they've really struggled to capture how crazy Harley Quinn is, and I think that this really shows that. It gets you inside the mind of her, and I think it really does a great job without having her say like ridiculous jokes or silly comments to let you know that she's crazy. I think, again, James Gunn has his moments, and this is one of them. This will probably be a scene I revisit quite frequently, just by itself on YouTube or something. But yeah, just perfect, and it expertly sets up the finale of this movie. And shout out to Margot Robbie. Definitely her best Harley Quinn scene of any movie that she has done. So from here on out, we're about an hour, 20 minutes into this thing, and this will really be the end that we're going to focus on. This is just a nonstop 40-minute action scene for the most part, which can be tedious in a lot of movies, but it just works perfectly in this. It's the closest thing I can remember in a long time to feel like I'm like watching a live comic book unfold. Just perfectly done. The lead up to the finale, there's this beautiful shot of them all walking in the rain, like a hero shot, you would say, but it's just such a badass shot. I really liked it. It sets the table for what we're about to see, and I have no complaints in the third act of this movie. I think it is silly, it's fun, it's good action, it's intense, it has moments of emotion, literally everything you could want in a finale of a film, and it's got finality to it too, as far as like all the loose ends for the most part get tied up. It's a movie that is a complete film and doesn't necessarily set up 40 different things for the sequels moving forward. A couple of the highlights. I'm going to start with King Shark. So there is a scene, I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about, where he goes into the fish tank and he sees those creatures. I really like this scene. It wasn't funny for me, but they play this here. I'll play you guys what the actual sound, the score that they use for this is, because I just thought it was really, really awesome. Yeah, well, cameo on the Made for Movies podcast by none other than Sylvester Stallone there as King Shark. Shout out to you. Thanks for popping on there for that little comment. No, but seriously, really well, just a beautiful score, and it actually appears in the credits as well. So clearly, they only played 2 songs in the credits. Clearly, they also thought that this was just a haunting score, and just one of those little things in a movie that caught my attention. And if you also liked it, let me know. But let's move into some of the other major plot details. Of course, we have the introduction to Starro the Conqueror. So, I'm a pretty big comic book fan. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And this is a pretty cool villain to have in the movie, specifically because it is the first villain that the Justice League fought in the first ever comic book. So shout out to that. And I thought that there was no way in hell that they would be able to make this work in a movie and keep it like serious and not a total joke. And they managed to do it perfectly. I thought that they made Starro a sympathetic character. They also, I like that the only thing Starro the Conqueror wanted to do was take over the island. At no point was it about like world domination or anything like that. He just continued to say, this island is mine. So I thought that was a nice touch. I like when the stakes are not the fate of the world is in the hands of these heroes. I think it actually works better sometimes when they do that. But just overall, I thought that they set it up very nicely. And of course, the final battle with Starro was well done. Last little thing that I'll say that the movie does, it's kind of a subtle thing that a lot of people probably aren't talking about too much, is it uses different things in the environment to set the table for the scene. So we'll see writing in the dirt, basically saying they're hunting the Suicide Squad, or if they're in a new location, they'll have that location written instead of it just like a subtitle on the screen. It'll actually be part of the world that it's in. So I thought that was cool. It was a little confusing a couple times. It could have been a little clearer, but it definitely had that comic book vibe of like switching scenes to another scene. So I thought that was really, really well done. And I definitely laughed really hard when it's like the Suicide Squad versus Starro the Conqueror. I thought that was one of the better moments, and really set the table for just how freaking batshit crazy this movie is. And yes, we're about to watch the Suicide Squad fight a giant starfish or whatever Starro is. But really worked for me, as well as the John Cena heel turn. So for those wrestling fans out there, man, I've been waiting like 20 years for John Cena to turn bad. So it's always funny when he does it in a movie. He still will never do it in a wrestling ring. But very well done. And it wasn't to the point where like it was not believable, which is super important. I feel like his character has like justifications to why he's doing it, basically with Amanda Waller, paying him to make sure he destroys all the evidence. And he does some of his better acting actually in this scene with his fight with Rick Flag. Really well done. A couple really cool camera techniques. They actually filmed the first part of the fight through Peacemaker's helmet, so like through the reflection on the back of his helmet. I thought that was really cool. And just very intense fight, very grounded in reality. I thought it worked really well, of course, leading up to the death of Rick Flag. I'm, again, not the biggest Rick Flag fan in these movies. I think that I was just burned a little bit too hard by his relationship with Enchantress in the first one to care about him in this one. The actor is totally fine, no issues there. I personally wasn't like upset that he died, though, if that makes sense. Now, as far as Cena about to kill Ratcatcher 2, she was one of my favorite characters in the movie, so that one I was like a little kid, like, no, don't kill her. But before we get there, of course, we get basically the whole building collapsing. We get the creatures attacking King Shark, which was a sad moment. It definitely mimicked shark movies, which I don't know if that was intentional. I'm guessing it was, as far as seeing King Shark in a pool of blood. But it was sad, man. I wanted to see him make those friends. It was set up so perfectly. I thought we were gonna get like those guys just like hanging out with him for the rest of the movie, but Jesus, can this guy get a break? Like, just heartbreak after heartbreak with King Shark. No wonder he wants to eat everyone. But all jokes aside, we move into the showdown between Idris Elba and Peacemaker. Really cool callback to their first conversation, because they obviously are very similar as far as like their bios go for supervillains. So I thought that was really well done. And I'm referring to specifically, Cena said that his bullets are smaller and would go inside Idris Elba's bullets. So very cool callback that it ends up being Idris Elba with the smaller bullets. Funny, in a dick measuring contest, the smaller man wins. Pretty cool. But no, it was well done. Of course, Cena is clearly dead, and James Gunn has come out and said that he was meant to be dead. But of course, they decided they were going to make the Peacemaker TV show, and he lived in the post-credits, which we'll get to in a second. But before we do, let's just talk about, man, I have not talked about Polka Dot Man at all. Of course, like I said, I don't want to go over all the jokes that you guys already know and love as far as with him. Anything related to his mom was fantastic. But again, shout out to the actor. He did an incredible job. And yeah, his death definitely made me a little bit sad. Yells, "I'm a superhero," right before dying. Very, very fun moment for him. Heroic, and then death, of course. But as far as how freaking silly this finale is, I was invested in it, which is really the only thing that matters at the end of the day with these movies is, are you invested in these characters? And they just made it work. Even like the absurdity of the rats in the city, like usually I would hate stuff like that in a movie, but this movie builds up to it and it earns those moments. And believe it or not, so I'm a big pussy and I do get emotional in movies. And in this movie, I didn't really, but the closest I got to crying in this movie was the cameo of Taika Waititi as Ratcatcher 1 when they're sitting on top of the building. Really awesome moment. Of course, his character died of a heroin overdose in a flashback scene earlier in the movie. And man, that guy is already one of my all-time favorite people in film, and the fact that he has 2 minutes in this movie and brings more emotional weight to the scenes than almost every other actor just shows you how much he gets it. And so the scenes with the rats, super ridiculous as far as them being what destroys Star the Conqueror, but it works for me. And as far as with Margot Robbie, she goes inside of Starro's eye. Just a beautiful shot with the rats swimming around her. Just fantastic cinematography. Man, this is a beautiful film. I think there is a lot of like generic war action scenes in it that don't really scream out, wow, this is a James Gunn movie. But the moments that do are some of James Gunn's best directed scenes ever, including the Guardians movies. But yeah, just overall, man, just a fun movie. I had a lot of fun just going back through it with you guys. And we do get 2 post-credit scenes. So the first one is Weasel is alive. Weasel is played by James Gunn's brother, Sean Gunn. So hopefully he pops up in the Peacemaker show. Can we just get John Cena needs to go back to the island to rescue Weasel? That's enough of a show idea for me. I'm all in. No, but at the end, we do see that John Cena is still alive and well. In his hospital bed. Again, this was not the original plan. I will definitely watch this show. Hopefully, HBO Max can be the home to the Suicide Squad universe. So I really don't want to see the Suicide Squad cross over back with Batman and Superman anytime soon. Let it be its own thing. Let James Gunn produce this world and build out this world a little bit. I won't be shocked if they cross these universes over. If anything, Superman, I would like to see. I know they have that new game coming out, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League with an evil Superman. So that, I would watch that movie. Who am I kidding? But for the most part, I would like to see this stay self-contained. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for us. Again, love this movie. Final thoughts. I'm sure if you're still listening to this hour-long podcast on the Suicide Squad that you also loved it too, or you're just super weird and you like to listen to people talk about stuff that you hate. But either way, I'm going to grade this thing out. I'm going to give it a 8.5 out of 10. Again, great film. I'll watch this movie many more times, and I'm sure that I will love it more and more each time. Not quite on the level of Guardians 1 and 2, but it's not trying to be. I don't hold it to that standard. It's something completely different. It's completely its own thing. And by default, it is my favorite DC Extended Universe film to date. So, I talked a lot. I want to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys want to send a voice memo, a message, whatever way of contact, I will shout you guys out on next week's episode. If you have a specific question you want to know, what I think of a certain part of the movie or a character, shoot it my way and we will discuss it next week. Thank you so much for listening. Please continue to follow us on Apple Podcast as well as Spotify, and please leave us that 5-star rating if you think we are worthy on Apple Podcast. It really helps us grow. Cannot thank everyone enough for the continued support and everyone who listens every week. We have a lot of fun stuff coming, and I can't wait for you to hear it. All right, that wraps it up. Bye.